Principals, how do you get your teachers to confess to a crime? I was getting coffee in the break room, reached into the cabinet for some sugar, and saw a Ziploc bag of white powder. This wasn't sugar. My brother's a police captain. I know exactly what this was. I called an emergency meeting with all my teachers and said, every single one of you will be fired and replaced unless the guilty person comes clean and confesses to the crime in 3 minutes. I hid the bag, not wanting to show my cards. You know who you are and what you did. This is a serious offense and the police will be notified. I took out a stopwatch and turned it on. All of the teachers shared a terrified glance, and within 10 seconds, Mrs. Petrie said, I lied twice on my time cards. I didn't want anyone to know that I was late to class. I didn't expect that and said, okay, that's not exactly breaking the law. Who else has something to confess? Mr. Donaldson sweated and said, I had an affair with Mrs. Walters after school in astronomy class. We really like looking up at the fake stars on the ceiling. I'm sorry. Please don't tell my wife, or my kids, or my grandkids. I wasn't expecting that either and said, okay, adultery is a misdemeanor, I think. Gotta check on that. Who else? Mrs. Hart started crying and said, I'm not who I say I am. My real name's Nancy, and I was in prison for shoplifting. I have an obsession with Doritos and an eating disorder. I can't eat enough of them. I firmly said, okay, we'll handle that later, Nancy. The person that I'm looking for still isn't coming forward, and you have less than 2 minutes. Mr. Glass stood up, ripped open his shirt, and said, I have 3 nipples. I looked closely and was amazed to see that he did indeed have 3. I asked, why the hell would you announce that? It's not breaking any laws. He responded, sorry, it's just that everyone's showing so much courage being so honest, I just had to free myself. I walked around and glared at each teacher that had been quiet and put on my meanest face. Finally, Mrs. Betty Williams, who was 85 years old and still teaching, said, I slept with 62 students from the years 1982 up until 2008. I only slept with the nerds because they never got any love. I didn't think it was breaking the law because they seemed so happy afterwards. I was secretly impressed with her for pulling that off for so long, but I had to maintain my authority. I said, that is completely unacceptable, and I will deal with you later, Betty. I was getting way more than I bargained for, but still had to know whose white bag of illicit powder that was. I looked at my stopwatch and said, all right, this is your last chance. If the guilty person doesn't step forward right now, every single one of you will be put out on the street. Mr. Appleton stepped forward and said, fine, it was me. I stared at him, waiting for the truth. I was at your house last week at 5 a.m. I egged your house and slapped bologna slices onto your car, hoping they would rip off the paint. I don't think they did, and I'm not sure why I thought they would, but it was me. I was angry because you didn't give me a bigger Christmas bonus last year. Another teacher chimed in. I was the one that toilet papered your house last year. I thought I deserved to win the Teacher of the Year award, and instead you gave it to Betty, who's obviously some renowned hooker now, I guess. I responded, it took me 3 hours to get all that toilet paper off of my roof. I turned to everyone and said, but this isn't what I want to know. I grabbed the bag of white powder and said, I found this in the cabinet next to the sugar, and I know what it is. This isn't my first rodeo. I went to college in the 80s. So, whose is this? Betty looked closely at the white powder and said, that's where it was. I gasped, this is yours, Betty? She responded, yes, it's baking soda. She dipped her finger in it, tasted it, and smiled. I've never felt dumber in my life. A week later, Betty got arrested for swimming naked in a water fountain in public because she was high on whatever was in that bag. Baking soda, my ass.